The year was 2021. The month was September. We as the collective sat, waited, looked around, played the games that were given to us, and we're not prepared for what happened next. We witnessed a leak of epic proportions. There was a list of games that were supposedly coming out via massive NVIDIA leak. We as the community laughed, we scoffed, we commented, is this real? Well, after the recent reveal of Kingdom Hearts 4, and the fact that over the last 7 months, over 20 titles on that original NVIDIA leak list have come to fruition in some way or form, we now have to look at this list with a lot more validity and should assess what is yet to come. That's why today, guys, we're looking at the top 10 games yet to be announced from the 2021 NVIDIA leak. Number 10, Titanfall 3. TBA. Maybe. Possibly. I don't fucking know. We have to take this first entry with a pinch of salt. The last we saw of anything Titanfall related was the release of Titanfall 2 back in 2016. Ever since, it has been server shutdowns and no word of a sequel is in sight. Also, Respawn recently came out and stated in an interview that they were going to be removing all copies of Titanfall from the Steam store and all consoles. They have said that they are moving forward from the Titanfall series and are focused solely on Apex Legends. So, unfortunately, is this just a veiled attempt at throwing us off the trail? Or are we going to be left with a sour taste in our mouth of what could have been? Only time will tell in the ever-changing saga that is the Titanfall games. Number 9. Ratchet Clank. Prediction, 2024. With Rift Apart releasing last year to critical acclaim, it's only a matter of time until we see the return of our lovable duo of Ratchet and Clank. I feel that it will be a couple years before we have any concrete evidence of where the series is going, but I have no doubt in my mind that very soon we will be once again battling it out with different alien enemies and constructing even more various instruments of destruction as we travel through the different dimensions, Lombax and Robot, hand in hand. Number 8. Ghosts of Tsushima 2. Prediction, 2024. When Ghosts of Tsushima first dropped in June of 2020, it had fans clamoring to play and saying it was the next great entry in the Souls-like genre. Now, 2 years later, fans are wondering what is next for Jin Sakai as he has taken up the mantle of the Ghost of Tsushima, given up his samurai honor, and will be hunted going forward by Lord Shimura. We have not received any word from the company Sucker Punch on a potential sequel, but given the fact that it sold an astonishing 8 million copies, was nominated for 8 Game Awards in 2020, netting 2 in the process, and the fact that in early 2021, Sucker Punch posted 2 job listings. 1, a senior games writer for an open world game, and 2, a combat designer who has played Ghost of Tsushima and understands its core combat systems. With all that in mind, it's a pretty safe bet that we will receive the return of the Ghost of Tsushima. Number 7. Tekken 8. Prediction, 2022-2023. It has been 7 years now since we have heard anything from one of the stalwarts in the fighting game community, that is the Tekken franchise. Tekken 7 released in 2015 and has been a staple in the bigger fighting game tournaments such as EVO, TWT, and DreamHack respectively. It has been played by fans and adored for decades now, so fans respectively have deduced that 2022 may be the year for the next entry in their favorite fighting game franchise. With this being the final chapter in the Mishima saga, everything is up for grabs, and hopefully 2022 is the year of Tekken 8. Number 6. Gears of War 6. Prediction, 2023. The Gears of War franchise has been churning out hits since it debuted in 2006, and many are excited to see what is in store next. Microsoft hasn't announced Gears of War 6, but is believed to be deep in development at the Coalition. That, coupled with the recent NVIDIA leak of a possible November 10th, 2022 release date, which, as we look at it, seems a little bit more highly unlikely considering Starfield is slated to release the following day. It still gives us a ballpark in which we could see the next entry drop. But as always, we'll have to see if there's any validity to the potential leak. Though, as we have seen with all the confirmations, Gears of War 6 seems highly likely. Number 5. Monster Hunter 6. Prediction, 2023. Oh, Capcom, you beautiful, sweet prince. How unlucky you truly are. According to Windows Central, you were the victim of not one, but two cyber attacks. Back in 2021, not to be outdone by just the NVIDIA leak, Capcom was the victim of a massive ransomware attack. Oh no! This in turn allowed hackers to leak internal plans related to different games across multiple Capcom franchises. Oh no! Among the very many is a new Monster Hunter title being referred to as Monster Hunter 6, and the supposed release date is at some point in 2023. It may even be a sequel to Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World was the best-selling Capcom game of all time, with over 16.4 million copies being sold to the masses. It's a safe bet we will be decked in our fanciest, meatiest gear in no time. Number 4, Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered. Prediction, 2024. Let's be quite frank. It's the last of the PlayStation Final Fantasy games to actually need a remaster. Square Enix has been on a Final Fantasy Remaster fest over the last few years, with almost every entry being available on console, mobile, or Steam. With the recent remasters of Final Fantasy VIII and Crystal Chronicles, not to mention the second part of the remake being worked on currently of Final Fantasy VII, it would make sense to port the last remaining title in the Final Fantasy PlayStation portfolio. Currently, the only way to play is through emulation on Android or iOS systems, but with their director of the game Yatsumi Matsuno returning to Square Enix, it's pretty clear that we may see the return of Ramza yet. Number 3, Final Fantasy IX Remake. Prediction, 2026. We are not straying too far from the Square Enix train at number 3. After the reveal of Kingdom Hearts 4 recently, a remake of Final Fantasy IX seems very plausible. The remake would mark in the second in the avenue for Square Enix, with FF7 being the first. And as they are currently working on the second part in the FF7 franchise, it would make sense that they could easily start working on the first part of the FF9 remake. As we have seen with the NVIDIA leak, anything is possible. It could very well be just a scrap project at this point, but as we keep seeing, the possibility of 120 FPS FF9 crew is definitely not in the realm of impossibility. Number 2, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Prediction, 2024. In the last 10 years, we have seen the original trilogy of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 remade for the next generation of fans. That being said, it only makes sense to remake the most universally loved in Resident Evil 4. Capcom has been pretty quiet over a possible Resident Evil 4 remake, but with the success of the previous 3, it really makes sense that we could see the next remake in the next 2 years or so. I grew up playing this one on GameCube, and it was one of my favorite in the franchise. And now is the time for us as fans to revisit Leon's most epic adventure, and hopefully that time will be soon. And finally, number 1, BioShock 4. Prediction, 2024 to 2025. While I think that the announcement for this is all but assured, I have a belief that we'll be waiting for a few years before we get our hands on BioShock 4. Back in 2019, we first heard about BioShock 4 through months of rumors that the game had been in development and had been so for some time. But 2K Games has clearly stated that if there is a new BioShock on the horizon, it will be several years before we get to play it. And this has also come out from a journalist known as Colin Moriarty, that BioShock 4 is going to supposedly take players to a fictional city in the Antarctic in the 1960s called Borealis. If this was the case, it would line up with the events of the first and second games. So I guess it is not so much as if, but when we will get to see the next adventure into Rapture. Alright guys, well that does it for me today. Did you guys enjoy the list? Did I leave any out? If you go ahead and do that and leave me a comment, let me know if I did. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, would you kindly do me a favor and please like and subscribe. Alright guys, take care and be beautiful.